Good morning. Has anyone seen my volleyball? And welcome to the commencement exercises of the University of Georgia School of Law, class of 2016. At this time, could I please ask all of you to shout loudly once more for all of your friends and family that just came in. Let it up. Give it up. Give it up. And now, could I ask you please to silence your cell phones or put them on vibrate? And as you are able, remain standing. The colors of the state and the nation have been presented by the Reserve Officer Training Corps of the University of Georgia. And I'd now like to invite to the podium Mr. Greg Jacobson, a graduate of the University of Georgia School of Law class of 2015, to sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Greg. And please take your seats. Members of the class of 2016, today is your day. It is a day of celebration, of reflection, of inspiration. Today, you celebrate the completion of one journey, all that you have accomplished over the last several years. The victories in the moot courtroom, like the recent sweep at the intrastate moot court, hard-fought battles on behalf of your clients in law clinics, one of which resulted in a pardon by the President of the United States. Intellectual exchanges with your faculty and classmates, like in Professor Christian Turner's Supreme Court discussion group, late nights in the library completing journal site checks, and friendships forged sometimes over laughter, sometimes over tears. Law school provides the crucible for these formative experiences, and those experiences help shape the professional you will become. Today, you begin a new journey, the start of your career as legal professionals. You may be filled with a mix of emotions, a sense of accomplishment, a jittery excitement, and perhaps a slight fear of the unknown. And whatever the emotions that fill you today, let me assure you of one thing. Know that you are not alone. Today, around the world, 10,000 alumni and alumnae of this law school had a day just like you and embarked on their own journey. And over this past year, you have met several of them. Alums like Chester Davenport, the first African-American graduate of this law school in 1966, who wanted to become one of the nation's most successful business persons and returned to tell you his story. Representative Stacey Godfrey Evans, a 2003 graduate and the first person in her family to go to college, recently settled the largest case in the history of the state of Georgia, came back to tell you her story. And today, of course, Sally Quillian Yates, a 1986 graduate who wanted to become Deputy Attorney General of the United States and has returned to her alma mater to tell you her story. Thank you for being here. Today, these and other individuals may seem far down the road that lies ahead of you. But remember, they all had a day, just like you, where they sat in a chair filled with all the same emotions that fill you right now and embarked on those journeys. And sometimes the journeys that they began are ones that you continue. 10 years ago, graduates of the class of 2006 started a program, the Working in Public Interest Conference, an effort to bring together stakeholders from around the country to embark upon a dialogue about how to improve access of justice to the underserved in our society. And 10 years later, several of you continued that tradition. And I'm pleased to share with you all today, members of the class of 2016, some news that I received yesterday afternoon, which is that that conference will receive this year the State Bar of Georgia's Access to Justice Award for the greatest effort made in this state to improve the delivery of legal services to those who need it and can't afford it. So could I ask Shaniqua Singleton and the other officers of that organization, along with Professor Alex Scher, to stand and be acknowledged for this historic award. Shaniqua, by the way, your voicemail box is full. Today, as you embark on this journey, know that you are not alone in another sense. The friends, partners, fiancés, sons, daughters, relatives, those who are here today and those who could not be here have accompanied you on this journey. And I know they will accompany you on the journey that you are about to embark upon. And so may I ask the families of our graduates to rise just one more time and be acknowledged by your sons and daughters and spouses today. And on the subject of family, I'd like to take just one brief moment and talk about mothers. Specifically, the mother of Justice Felix Frankfurter. The storied Supreme Court justice late in his career was asked to share the best advice he ever received. Though surrounded for much of his professional life by heads of state, Ivy League professors, and Supreme Court justices, Frankfurter said the best advice he ever received was not from any of them, but from his mother, Emma Winter Frankfurter, a 19th century European emigre who traveled to the United States with her husband and their 6 children to give them a better life. And Emma Frankfurter's advice to her son in his teenage years was very simple, 3 words: hold yourself, dear. What did these three words mean? Hold yourself, dear. To Justice Frankfurter, they meant to be sure that throughout his life, he never took a path that would, quote, subordinate the important considerations in the conduct of his life to the unimportant ones, close quote. Those words saw Frankfurter through many hard choices and many disappointments, when he was mocked for his accent, when he was not accepted to some society that was misguidedly seen as a mark of distinction, when stunningly he was asked shortly after his law school graduation to change his name to one sounding more agreeable to his law firm's clients. In heeding his mother's advice and refusing the firm's suggestion, Frankfurter responded, "My name is part of me, and I ought to respect it." Time and again, as a lawyer, as an academic, in government, and ultimately in the Supreme Court, when confronted with a difficult choice, Frankfurter always leaned on his mother's advice. Hold yourself, dear. And just like Justice Frankfurter, from this day forward, you will confront difficult choices. As lawyers, lawmakers, leaders, judges, you will face ethical quandaries. You will be asked to make seemingly impossible calls, to reconcile the irreconcilable. You will have to look beyond what is lawful to determine what is right and what is just. And in these difficult moments, may you find some solace in Emma Frankfurter's advice to her son. Hold fast to your most core beliefs, to what brought you here, and never, ever subordinate the important considerations in the conduct of your own professional life to the unimportant ones. Hold yourself dear. Now it's my pleasure to introduce the son of Bridget and Steve Howard, the three otherwise known as John David. JD is the senior managing editor of the Georgia Journal of International Comparative Law, the president of your class, and the pitcher for the Law Dog softball team. JD.
Thank you, Dean Rutledge, and on behalf of the class of 2016, welcome to commencement ceremonies. I'd like to begin by first thanking all our esteemed guests. Thanks, Dean Rutledge, Sheriff Edwards, Dean Amon, Deputy Attorney General Yates, Provost Witten, Mr. Snipes, Hari, of course, Dean Rodriguez, Dean Hashimoto, Professor Hale, Professor Shipley, and Dean Ringham. Thank you also to any scholarship donors that may be in the audience, because without you, a lot of us wouldn't be up here today. I'd like to thank faculty, staff, family, friends, and anyone else I may have forgotten for coming to support us today at graduation. Also, a word of caution. I think I saw a few of my friends and most of my family sitting over here. If you hear some random outbursts or loud noises coming from that direction, I apologize. When it came time to write this speech and to honestly confront the reality of entering the working world, I took some time to reflect back on things that I've learned over the past 3 years. After all, as a class, we were able to meet Justice Stevens, Justice Thomas, Senator Saxby Chambliss, among other countless guest speakers, visiting faculty like David Darden. I thought maybe I could channel some of their wisdom to both motivate and inspire our class. But the only thought that kept coming back to my mind was how much I'm going to miss living in Athens next year. I'm sure many of you have been to Athens before, but for those who are not lucky enough to be familiar with the classic city, Athens is without a doubt one of the best college towns in the country. There are many great restaurants, tons of shops. There's always something going on downtown, and the weather isn't half bad until it forces you to move graduation into the volleyball arena. But what really makes Athens a special town is the community, both the students and the full-time residents. And at no time is that community more evident than on Saturdays in the fall. 93,000 people flood this campus, all decked out in red and black, intent on pouring their all into cheering on the dogs. And it is truly an amazing sight to see that sea of red heading down the steps, across Baldwin, and into Sanford Stadium. In the same way that the community makes Athens special, the class of 2016 has made my law school experience what it is. Individually, members of our class have accomplished remarkable things. Members of advocacy teams have had great successes across the country. A few people have welcomed new children into this world, like Andy Weeks. Several of y'all were engaged or got married. Many of you worked in clinics and were able to help people solve legal problems they wouldn't have been able to were it not for your help. Jack Gibson self-funded countless IM softball teams or other intramural teams to help deal with the stress that goes along with being a law student. And because of Jack's efforts during our 2L year, Ben Ralston was able to figure out a way to strike out in slow pitch softball. In fact, John Thomas was so impressed by his efforts that he also learned how to strike out the following April. Unless the two of them think that I'm singling them out unnecessarily, they also hit two of the most crucial home runs in the Charlottesville softball tournament that we've played in the past 2 years. While these individual accomplishments are something to be treasured, I will always be most proud of how our class came together as a community. Members of the class of 2016 came from all corners of the country, from Miami, Chicago, Houston, St. Louis, Las Vegas, and San Diego. A few folks even joined us from different countries. Though we were from different backgrounds, we were all new to law school. We bonded as we suffered through those horrible 1L classes. I'm proud to announce to everyone in attendance that Will Alexander survived being the first person called on in Section X and now knows the difference between a plaintiff and a defendant. Thank you for that, Professor Wells. We came together to celebrate turning in memos and briefs, and of course for days parties. But most importantly, we forged relationships that I will cherish forever. Simply put, I wouldn't be on this stage today if it weren't for each and every one of you. I'm told that that's generally how elections work, but it's also a nice thing to say. Seriously though, each of you made attending law school at the University of Georgia one of the best decisions I've ever made, and for that I owe you my most sincere thanks. This law school will always be a place to come home to, simply because of the community that you helped create. We're all joining a very proud tradition today. Alumni, alumnae, law dogs. You're following in the footsteps of important people like Deputy Attorney General Yates and President Jerry Moorhead. Go out, do great things. But always remember where you come from. There is no other tradition so worthy of respect or deserving of such loyalty. Thank you, God bless, and go dogs. At this point, it's my honor to introduce Mr. Daniel Snipes. Dan Snipes is a University of Georgia alumni, having earned his Bachelor of Business Administration in 1992 from the Terry College of Business and his Juris Doctor from this school in 1995. A member of the State Bar of Georgia and of the South Carolina Bar, Dan is a trial lawyer. He has tried cases against the country's largest automobile manufacturers, nationwide trucking companies, and manufacturers of industrial equipment, in addition to criminal cases in both state and federal courts. In addition to serving as president of the Law School Alumni Council, Dan is an officer of the Georgia Trial Lawyers Association, a fellow of the Lawyers Foundation of Georgia, a member of the State Bar of Georgia Board of Governors, and a member of the United States District Court, Southern District of Georgia's Advisory Committee. At this time, if I could ask Mr. Dan Snipes and Dean Rutledge to approach the stage to receive the class of 2016's gift.
Good morning. Thank you, JD, for that introduction, and a deep and sincere thank you to JD, Hari, and the class of 2016 for your generous gift to the Law School Fund. It is a great privilege to represent the nearly 10,000 living alumni of the University of Georgia School of Law at the celebration of your graduation and at the accomplishments of your class. In a few moments, you will become alumni of the law school and a member of the Law School Association. As you stand on the threshold of your professional career, the Law School Association is honored to welcome you to our membership. Graduation is not the end of your relationship with Georgia Law. As you enter into your postgraduate career, you will continually engage and interact with other alumni of Georgia Law. You have already created the most valuable network of lawyers that you will develop in your career. The classmates and other law students with whom you shared experiences while at law school will become the closest network of lawyers that you ever have in your career. Your fellow students and friends from Georgia Law will be your referral network for new clients. They will be the local counsel that you call on when you need help somewhere else. They will be the people with whom you celebrate victories and with whom you celebrate big deals. And also, and probably more importantly, they'll be the people that will provide you comfort and solace on when days are not so bright. As I reflect on my own law school experience and my graduation 21 years ago, I continue to cherish the friendships created during my time as a student at Georgia Law. Georgia Law extends far beyond the buildings on North Campus and the group of people who are gathered today. Georgia Law is a community that includes federal judges, governors, members of Congress, justices of the Georgia Supreme Court, a host of state court judges, the Deputy Attorney General for the United States, ambassadors, professors, and the president of the University of Georgia. As you take your place among the alumni of our law school, I encourage you to stay active and engaged. In rural Georgia, there's a saying that if you see a turtle on top of a fence post, you know he didn't get there by himself. All of us receive assistance and help in the way of encouragement, in the way of financial assistance, and just friendship. Your legacy contribution to the law school is a great way of making sure that other people receive the help that they may need. Every scholarship dollar awarded by Georgia Law is a result of a private gift. As a public law school, all scholarship money for deserving students is a result of gifts like yours from other alumni and benefactors of a law school. As alumni, we must do our part to ensure that Georgia Law remains an elite law school. The legacy gift is a great start. I challenge each of you to continue the legacy of giving that you have started. On behalf of our Law School Alumni Association, we welcome you. We're very proud of you. We're proud to call you fellow alumnus and a member of the community of Georgia Law. Enjoy today. Enjoy one another. Congratulations, and thank you very much.
At the University of Georgia, we are blessed with a faculty conducting world-class research and bringing that into your classroom. To introduce this fabulous faculty, let me invite to the podium Usha Rodriguez, the Associate Dean for Faculty Development.
Good morning. I'm going to address the families of our graduates first. Most of you don't know me, and you're not particularly interested in me. Your focus is your graduate, your son, your daughter, your brother, or sister, or spouse. You think they are the stars of today. And you are, of course, completely right. But I'm speaking to you today, briefly, I promise, because I represent the faculty of Georgia Law. I'm proud beyond measure to call myself a member of this faculty. The impact of their teaching and their scholarship reaches far beyond the borders of this great state. And now, I'm speaking to today's graduates. We, your faculty, worked with the class of 2016 for 3 years. That's 6 semesters, 84 weeks, or 420 days of instruction. When you add it up that way, it sounds like a long time, but it sure went by fast, didn't it? We started with you the first week of 1L year, remember? You were petrified of being called on, particularly by me. You read the case 3 times and you still didn't understand the words expectancy damages. Over the next 3 years, we taught you in classrooms and in clinics. We met with you in our offices and over coffee and other beverages. And now we let you go back into the world. We are so proud of you. And I trust, I hope, that you're proud of us too. Are you? So graduates of 2016 and distinguished guests, it's my pleasure to present the Faculty of Georgia Law. Please stand so they can be recognized and thanked.
Experiential learning represents a core value of the University of Georgia. For law students, that experiential learning often takes place in one of the law school's clinic programs. Those clinics represent a call to you to serve your state and your society. And many of you have answered that call. For some brief reflections on how you have done so, and some words of encouragement that you continue to do so throughout your professional lives, let me invite to the podium Erica Hashimoto, the Associate Dean for Clinical Programs and Experiential Learning.
Thank you, Dean Rutledge. I have the privilege of getting to brag for a moment about the legal services that this remarkable group of students has already provided over the past couple of years to people throughout the state of Georgia and across the country. This group of students has demonstrated a remarkable capacity for engaging in public interest work. As Dean Rutledge told you, the students who run the Working in the Public Interest Conference do such a great job that they recently were recognized by the State Bar of Georgia. And a quite remarkable 80% of you in this class participated in a clinical or externship program or a practicum during your time here, providing legal services to a range of people and organizations. From people who don't have roofs over their heads to call home, to victims of domestic violence who desperately needed you to help guarantee their safety, to our state and federal governments, prosecutors' offices, judges' chambers, and administrative agencies, all of which needed your help, to criminal defendants whose liberty rested in your hands, to small business owners trying to stay afloat. You represented all of them, providing not just your legal assistance, but also your passion, commitment, and compassion. So I want to say, on behalf of all of those to whom you provided legal services, thank you. I commend you for those efforts, and as you move forward in your legal careers, I hope you will carry some of those experiences with you and remember the remarkable power you, as lawyers, will have to improve the lives of others. You've used your skills to improve the lives of the people in this community. To give just one example, Andrew McClintock and his teammate in the Community Help Clinic took on a project to educate people about a change in state law that allowed households with elderly or disabled members to qualify for additional food stamps if they had certain medical expenses. If that sounds somewhat dry, it is. But in human terms, it means the difference between having and not having enough to eat. McClintock's team, with assistance from other clinic students, developed a standard form to help applicants and legal services organizations calculate qualifying expenses. And through that work, a number of families experiencing food insecurity were able to increase their benefits so that they could feed their families. And then there's the impact you have had on your individual clients and their families. Again, an example serves to illustrate this point. Thanks to the work of Taylor Butenchen Strickland and Elliot Ream, along with appellate litigation clinic students over the past 3 years, Stephen Boyd, a federal prisoner serving a sentence of life without parole for a drug offense, was granted clemency by President Obama. Mr. Boyd spent 18 years in prison, waking up each morning knowing that he would spend every day of the rest of his life in prison. And now, because of your work and dedication, Mr. Boyd will be reunited with his family in 2 months. You also learned the value of trying to find solutions through mediation. Through the mediation clinic, Hannah Allen successfully mediated a dispute between a mother and her son that had devolved to the point of the mother filing to have the son evicted from her home. Through Hannah's adept mediation, the parties received something much more valuable than they would have gotten from a trial: a chance to hear one another, take ownership of the ultimate resolution of the case, and explore ways to move beyond the legal dispute and repair that relationship. Through all of the hard work you have devoted to your clients, you have also gained the respect and trust of those clients, one of the most important and gratifying things that lawyers can earn. Again, an example. Through the Business Law Clinic, Ellie Carroll and Aaron Peterson worked extensively with a client on intellectual property protections for her small ice cream business, doing research, answering the client's questions, and explaining the client's options to her in a way that she understood. When the client was finally ready to register a trademark, the semester had ended. A local law firm that specializes in intellectual property law volunteered free of charge to complete the work Ellie and Aaron had started. The client very politely responded that she appreciated this offer, but was there any way that Ellie and Aaron could also be present to make sure it was done correctly? That is the kind of trust that hard work earns. Finally, I want to recognize all of you who have, with grace and courage, worked through the challenges of actually practicing law. The heartbreaks, the days your clients experienced crushing losses, and the days you felt overwhelmed by the problems your clients faced. Being a lawyer, as you will discover, can be challenging, but I hope you will always remember the hugs of joy and tears of gratitude that make it all worth it. I'm incredibly proud of the work that each and every member of this class did, and I would like everyone to join me in a round of applause, thanking them for their efforts this year. To introduce today's graduation speaker, I would like to invite to the podium Mr. Hari Narayanan, Vice President of the class of 2016. Originally from Omaha, Nebraska, Hari has been active in the Asian Law Students Association, worked with the Athens-Clarke County DA's office, and served as the head coach of the Law Dogs JV intramural basketball team.
Thank you, Dean Hashimoto. Good morning and welcome to all of you. It is my great honor and pleasure to introduce the Commencement Day speaker for the class of 2016, Deputy Attorney General Sally Quillian Yates. Deputy Attorney General Yates is a native Georgian and a double dog who graduated magna cum laude from Georgia Law. At Georgia Law, Ms. Yates served as the executive articles editor of the Georgia Law Review. Ms. Yates started her career practicing commercial litigation with King & Spalding in Atlanta before joining the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Georgia. As an AUSA, Ms. Yates prosecuted a wide variety of complex matters and specialized in prosecuting public corruption cases. In the 2000s, Ms. Yates earned national recognition for her prosecution of the Olympic Park bomber. In 2010, Ms. Yates was nominated by President Barack Obama to serve as the United States Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. After her confirmation by the Senate, Ms. Yates made history by becoming the first woman to serve as the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. The Northern District of Georgia encompasses the Atlanta metro area and has a population of over 6 million people. As the U.S. Attorney, Ms. Yates was a chief federal law enforcement official for the district and oversaw the prosecution of all federal crimes and the litigation of all civil matters in which the government has an interest. Johnny Isakson, the senior U.S. Senator from Georgia, said this about Ms. Yates' tenure as U.S. Attorney. Sally Yates was an equal opportunity prosecutor. She's prosecuted Democrats, Republicans, independents, Olympic Park bombers, and anybody who's violated the public trust. Sally Quillian Yates is a great Georgian, and I commend her to each of my colleagues. In 2015, Ms. Yates was nominated by President Barack Obama and confirmed with broad bipartisan support by the U.S. Senate to become Deputy Attorney General of the United States, the second highest ranking position in the Justice Department. Please join me in giving a warm Georgia welcome to Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates.
Well, thank you, Hari, for your very kind introduction. Dean Rutledge, Provost Whitten, distinguished faculty, proud parents and family members, and most of all, to the remarkable men and women of the class of 2016, thank you for inviting me to share in this special day with you. It's an enormous privilege for me to be able to join you as you celebrate this turning point in your lives. Now, at the risk of losing all credibility with you right out of the gate, I have to tell you that one of the reasons why I am so thrilled to be here today is that I loved law school. More specifically, I loved law school here at the University of Georgia. I loved the academic rigor that really pushed me intellectually. It challenged my assumptions and taught me a new way to think. I was nerdy enough to actually enjoy the research and the sparring in class when called on, and even sort of picking apart those arcane principles of property law that I was convinced I would never need again. But the real reason that I loved law school, the real reason that I have an emotional, not just an academic connection to this place, was because of the people, my classmates. I was lucky enough to go to law school with some of the brightest, most clever, fun, inspiring people whom I've ever known. We were competitive, to be sure, but not in the mean-spirited, tear the pages out of the book kind of way. And I recognize that I'm dating myself here because that's back when we actually read cases from reporters in the law library. But rather, if someone were called on in class and they didn't know the answer to the question, rather than just sitting there smugly watching the prey wiggle, my classmates would actually try to surreptitiously whisper the answer to help us all avoid humiliation whenever possible. That built a trust and a camaraderie that has lasted my entire professional career. Some of my very best friends today are the friends that I got to know in my first year law section at the University of Georgia. And I think that that sets UGA apart from other law schools. Not only do you get a top-notch education here that will take you anywhere that you want to go, you learn how to get there without being a jerk. You learn that somebody else's failure is not your accomplishment. You learn that the way we treat one another as colleagues defines what kind of lawyer we're going to be far more than does our GPA. Now, together as a class, you all have celebrated moot court victories. You've survived Professor Hashimoto's classes, which I understand can be kind of tough. And you've gotten in touch with your irreverent side in the sketches at the annual law review, including, I am told, some pretty memorable impersonations of Professors Wells and Conan and even Dean Rutledge. And you came together in times of tragedy. A number of you lost parents and other loved ones during your time here in law school. And I know that their absence here today is particularly poignant. But when members of your class suffered these unfathomable losses, you were there for each other. And those are the kind of bonds that will last a lifetime. But now your time on this campus is quickly drawing to a close, and we should not only celebrate what you've achieved, but also ask you to think about what you're going to do with your future. I think this is the point in the speech where I'm supposed to give you the obligatory commencement advice. Now, this is kind of tricky territory, to be able to give advice without sounding insufferably pedantic, or even worse still, without actually being insufferably pedantic, and I may fail at both of those. I know that the usual graduation advice is to tell you to look inside yourself, to find your inner passion, and to follow that passion. And if you were graduating from one of the other colleges here at the university, that might be my advice to you today. But you're not. You're graduating from the law school. And the degree that you have earned carries with it a responsibility that no other degree does. Because you now hold in your hands the key to unlock justice in the world, to reveal truth, to stand up for the voiceless, to hold our country to its promises. That degree that you've just earned, it doesn't belong just to you. It belongs to the world. Because justice in our world requires lawyers, whether it's resolving a civil dispute or ensuring that an individual who's criminally charged has his or her rights protected, or doing what I've done for most of my career, holding individuals accountable when they violate the law. The citizens of our country can't obtain justice without you, the lawyers. So, given that you now have a key that few others hold, you have to decide how you're going to use that key. Are you going to unlock justice? Students at this school have a proud tradition of facing that question. 55 years ago, in May of 1961, a UGA student invited Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy to give the Law Day address. Attorney General Kennedy took the podium just 4 months after a federal judge had ordered 2 African American students, Charlene Hunter and Hamilton Holmes, admitted to the university. In response to that order, students here rioted. The legislature tried to cut off funding to the University of Georgia to prevent their admittance. And Hunter and Holmes were jeered just about everywhere they went. In what was his first official speech, a brand new Attorney General came to this campus and told the crowd what they could expect from his Justice Department. That the Department of Justice would ensure that our country lived up to its promise of equal rights for all Americans. That he agreed with the Supreme Court's decision in Brown versus Board of Education, overruling the doctrine of separate but equal. But that regardless of whether one agreed with it or not, it was the law of the land, and his Justice Department was going to enforce it. In concluding his remarks that day, Kennedy said, "All the high-sounding speeches about liberty and justice are meaningless unless people such as you and I breathe meaning and force into it." Attorney General Kennedy's words echo here today. This is the sacred charge entrusted to each of us in the legal profession, to pursue justice, not just rhetorically, but to breathe meaning and force into it. Sometimes, such as during Attorney General Kennedy's tenure at the Justice Department, the stakes could not be higher, or the breadth or the scope of the challenges more vast. There are certain defining moments in our history that are sharp inflection points reshaping our world, and if one of those moments occurs on your watch, I hope that you seize the challenge to use your legal skills to make fundamental and positive change. But successfully carrying out our responsibility as lawyers doesn't always require sweeping national movements. Walls don't always need to be torn down, nor do laws always need to be repealed in order to transform our society for the better. Sometimes justice prevails on a grand scale, and sometimes it flourishes in the simple righting of a wrong. Being a lawyer means standing ready to take on those seemingly routine cases happening day in and day out that have a profound impact of Americans all across our country. And from my own personal experience, I can tell you those opportunities are likely not far off. 2 years after I graduated from law school, I was working as a young associate at King & Spalding, and I took on a pro bono case to represent a woman by the name of Lovie Morrison. This case was my very first trial, and yet it is the most meaningful case of my career. Miss Morrison was 93 years old and was the first African-American landowner in Bear County, Georgia, not far from here. She owned 93 acres of land, 6.2 of which had recently been annexed by a real estate developer who was building a subdivision. The problem was that Miss Morrison, who was mistrustful of the white court system, had not timely recorded her deed, instead carrying it folded up down inside of her dress every single day as she worked the fields. Now, by the time she did record the deed, there was already a conflicting survey on the books that the real estate developer was using to lay claim to her property. In the 1930s in rural Georgia, Miss Morrison had good reason not to trust the court system. But in the late 1980s, that same court system was being given another chance to earn her trust. We filed an action to return the property to Miss Morrison using a theory I had planned on forgetting after first-year property, and that is adverse possession. Miss Morrison's family had made use of the land we were fighting over by washing their clothes in the stream and by cutting timber there for firewood. The time came to try the case, and I needed help. Even though I come from a family brimming with lawyers, not only had I never tried a case, I'd never even seen a trial before. So I went to the late Charlie Curbo, who was known for taking young lawyers under his wing, and to my great relief, he agreed to help. And from that moment on, Mr. Curbo treated that case with the same determination and commitment that he would have treated the most significant matter for Coca-Cola. The same man who had been known as President Carter's one-man kitchen cabinet, who had counseled national and international leaders, walked the land with me, strategized with me, and when the time came for trial, he sat next to me and guided me. Mr. Curbo demonstrated, not through any grandiose lectures, but through his own actions, a profound commitment to justice. When the case was tried, our client and her daughter were the only two African Americans in the courtroom. Batson had not yet been extended to civil cases, and opposing counsel struck all of the African Americans from the jury. Many of the jurors personally knew the real estate developer, his lawyer, and the surveyor that they were using as their expert witness. So all logic would tell you that our client didn't have much of a chance of prevailing on an adverse possession claim in this kind of setting. But a remarkable thing happened in that jury room. That group of 12 jurors who went to church with the real estate developer, who used his lawyer as their own, whose surveyor had surveyed their own property, that group of 12 jurors did the right thing. I wish I could claim that their verdict was because of something I did, like a really inspirational closing or a blistering cross-examination. But the truth of the matter is that verdict was in spite of my novice performance and not because of it. Those 12 people were given the opportunity to do the right thing, and they embraced it. And I don't think our client was the only one who left the courtroom that day with a newly found confidence in our justice system. I believe those jurors also left with a real sense of pride at having taken their responsibility to heart and having done what was right. As lawyers, what a gift we have been given to just get to be a part of that, and what a responsibility we have to safeguard that. Now, of course, this case didn't alter the course of history. It didn't make any headlines, and it wasn't about a whole lot of money. But this experience demonstrated for me how powerful unlocking justice can be. Not too long after that, I decided to apply for a job as a federal prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Atlanta. Truth be told, I didn't really expect to stay there long. I thought that I would go there for a few years and get some trial experience and then go back to the firm. I had never thought about being a prosecutor when I was in law school. In fact, I didn't even take a single advanced criminal law class, which you all may find a little unsettling given my current position. But here I am, 27 years later, still with the Justice Department. The fact of the matter is, as corny as it sounds, once I had experienced the privilege of representing the people of the United States, of having the obligation and the responsibility to do what was fair and right and just every single day in every case, I couldn't imagine going back and representing any other client. I've had the opportunity to stand up for victims, to make our community safer, and most importantly, to seek justice in a manner that sought to engender the trust of the public whom we serve. But prosecutors don't have a monopoly on public service. I have every confidence that each of you will find a way during the course of your careers to meet that special charge that we have as lawyers. In fact, as you all have already heard about here this morning, many of you have already done that while you're here in law school. You've given your time to the Criminal Defense Clinic and the Prosecutorial Justice Program. You've advocated for children in foster care, and through your work with the Cottage and Project Safe, you volunteered to help victims of sexual violence and child abuse and domestic violence. Your actions already demonstrate a recognition that being a lawyer means not just serving clients, but also serving society by fighting for those who need your help, who need your voice, who need you to stand next to them. Recently, the work of some of the students who are graduating here today intersected with my work in Washington. As you already heard a little bit about this morning, and as some of you may already know, the Obama administration has embarked on a clemency initiative that's designed to address disproportionately long sentences for those low-level, nonviolent drug offenders who were sentenced under outdated drug sentencing laws. As the Deputy Attorney General, I am charged with making a recommendation to President Obama on every one of those petitions. One such recent clemency petition was prepared by two of your graduates today, as you know, and made its way through the Justice Department and came to my desk. Stephen Boyd was convicted in 1998 of selling crack and sentenced to life in prison. You should know he had absolutely no history of violence. He had no other criminal history other than a few small-time drug deals, and yet, under the harsh mandatory minimum sentencing laws in effect at the time, he was sentenced to life in prison. And in the federal system, that means life without the possibility of parole. As I mentioned, the petition came in, made its way to my desk, and then to the White House, and just 3 weeks ago, President Obama granted Mr. Boyd's clemency petition. Now, Mr. Boyd paid his debt to society after having served 18 years in prison, but as a result of your classmates' hard work, Mr. Boyd has earned a second chance and will not spend the rest of his life in prison. Your classmates unlocked justice for Stephen Boyd. Each and every one of you has both the capacity and the obligation, in the words of Attorney General Kennedy, to breathe meaning and force into the pursuit of justice. I hope that you will seize opportunities to right wrongs large and small, that you will stand up for the voiceless, and that you will uphold the promise of our country. I hope that you will use the key that you were about to receive to unlock justice. Thank you again for the privilege of joining you today, and congratulations to the class of 2016.
Thank you, Sally, for those wonderful remarks, and welcome home. Let's give out some degrees. This is going to occur in two parts because we have multiple elements in our community. First, we're going to recognize two sets of degree recipients. Several students have received a degree called Master in the Study of Law, or MSL. This degree is designed for professionals who do not plan to practice, but whose career can benefit from expanding their knowledge in particular fields like government law, business law, or health law. Other students will receive an LLM degree. These students already hold law degrees from foreign countries and have completed further studies here to expand their professional knowledge. The Graduate School of the University of Georgia has formally conferred the degrees on this group, and today we celebrate this accomplishment. May I ask Provost Witten, Deputy Attorney General Yates, and Mr. Snipes to join me standing here. Professor Allison Hale, Director of the MSL program, will read the names of the degree recipients, and immediately after that, Associate Dean Diane Amon will read the names of the LLM degree recipients. And after that, time for the JD degrees.
Thank you, Dean Rutledge. It is my privilege to present the students receiving the degree of Masters in the Study of Law. This is an exciting day for the MSL program, as this year marks the graduation of the first class of students receiving the MSL degree. The two students receiving their degrees today join Batul Tarhan, who completed her degree in December. And Batul unfortunately could not be with us today, but we congratulate her nonetheless. And now our MSL graduates. Catherine Nicole Richardson. Hamad Daud Sheikh. Congratulations.
Good morning. I have the privilege of recognizing the 15 students who will receive the Master of Laws degree. This graduation marks the 46th year that the law school has given degrees to foreign-trained lawyers in recognition of their year here of study in American law. They join, the people that you are about to meet, join 400 and more accomplished lawyers throughout the world who were trained at Georgia, including 3 that came back this past year to meet with our students. Dr. Christoph Seifert, an accomplished lawyer in both Atlanta and Germany. Mukendi Kabuya, who is a lawyer trying to establish advocacy for children in court systems in Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And Dr. Kanan Rajarathinam, who is the leader of the UN Assistance Mission in Iraq. These students have very large shoes to fill, but I am very confident that they too will make us as proud as the 3 that I just cited. So will the Master of Law students please come forward? Gladys Olawumi Ashiru. Elisha Uchechi Atuloma. Fazil Rabi Chisti. Ekaterina Knapik. Oluwakemi Kafilat Kusemiju. Miguel David Medina Córdoba. Socorro Moctezuma Flores. Deborah Noguera Yates. Nastasia Spes. Hua Jin Tong. Ting Ting Tong. Mahmoud Estu Tekuya. Quen Wong. Simon Peter Buthram. And Xiao Zhang.
Now it's time to confer some JD degrees. Okay, here's what's going to happen. It is a long-standing tradition at the University of Georgia for our Juris Doctor candidates to select their faculty marshals. And I can tell you, being selected as a faculty marshal is one of the greatest honors that the faculty here can receive. My colleague and friend, Associate Dean Lori Ringhand, will introduce the faculty marshals. And after that, I'll return to the podium to invite Provost Witten to confer the degree on you.
Thank you. As Dean Rutledge noted, the two faculty marshals are selected each year by you, the members of the graduating class. Their selection as marshals evidences the deep regard that the students have for these professors. And perhaps also the students hope that they'll get their names correct as they're walking across the stage. No pressure, guys. Our first marshal, Associate Dean for Clinical Programs, Professor Erica Hashimoto. Professor Hashimoto is the holder of the Allen Post Professorship and also is a Hosea Meggs Distinguished Teaching Professor. In addition to being an excellent teacher, she's a skilled advocate. She worked for years as an assistant federal public defender and is the director of our renowned and, as you've heard, very successful appellate litigation clinic. Dean Hashimoto has been a tremendous asset to her students and to the entire law school community. Thank you, Erica, for everything you've done. Our second marshal is Professor David Shipley. Professor Shipley joined the law school as a faculty member and dean in 1998, and he's served the law school in many capacities since then. He oversaw the renovation of the beautiful Sanders Reading Room in our library, so all of you who spent many, many hours there should thank him for that. And he also created our Oxford Study Abroad program. In 2012, Professor Shipley was awarded the Georgia Athletic Association Professorship in Law, and he also serves on the boards of the University of Georgia Foundation and the University of Georgia Alumni Association. Although the contribution that the graduates may most appreciate is his role as the host of the best and most expensive dinner party ever auctioned off for the Equal Justice Foundation. Thank you, Professor Shipley.
Juris Doctor candidates of the class of 2016, this is your moment. I would like to invite Dr. Pamela Witten, Senior Vice President of the University of Georgia and Provost, to the podium so that she may confer your degree.
Thank you, Dean Rutledge, and thank you, Deputy Attorney General Yates, for truly some inspiring words today that I know will take with us beyond this experience. So I have to make a confession. As the provost of the university, I get to go to a lot of graduation ceremonies. And I'm going to be very honest with you, I love them. They're wonderful. It is such a privilege to get to share in the celebration with you of this really significant accomplishment. And so on behalf of all of us, thank you for letting us share in this day with you. I know that all of you have had 3 tremendous years of experiences that you've shared with your fellow students, certainly with faculty members and others. And you leave here, of course, with a family from the College of Law forever. But I also want to remind you that your family extends beyond the College of Law at the University of Georgia, because indeed, from here on out, you are all officially Bulldogs. So I will tell you from here on out in future days, when somebody walks up to you and says, "You look like a dog today," you'll take it as a compliment and go, "Well, thank you very much." So congratulations to all of you, and I know the Dean looks forward to visiting you in coming years and seeing large and small Bulldogs on your desks going forward. So this is the time when I say official words, and I have to get them just right, that will transform you magically into attorneys, if you will. So, if everyone would please stand. By the power vested in me by the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia, I confer on you the degree of Juris Doctor with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereto appertaining. Congratulations.
Everyone except those of you in the first row may now take your seats. Those of you in the first row, if I could ask you to come around to the side. The faculty marshals should step into the position by the microphone, and I would again invite Deputy Attorney General Yates, Dr. Whitten, and Mr. Snipes to join me in congratulating these wonderful graduates.
David Tyler Adams. Sarah Elizabeth Akinosho. William Hunter Alexander. Carlos W. Alexander. Derek Hunter Alexander. And William Hunter Alexander. Hannah Elizabeth Allen. Morgan Leah Allen. Celeste Lane Altman. Catalina Alvarez. Gary Michael Ashcroft. Alicia Auburn Baggerly. Miguel Angel Barboza Jr. Elizabeth Durham Barwick. Kellen Michelle Beagle. Megan Ann Bowden. Brad Bolin. Peyton McCurry Bradford. Danny Christine Brancaccio. April Tony Breeden. Elizabeth Ray Brewer. James Andrew Brooks. Spencer Haycock Brown. Emma Fisher. John Burke. Christopher Matthew Bush. Hannah Elaine Byers. Colleen Callahan. Vincent Calpamacchia. Eleanor Rose Carroll. Michael Dominique Carter. Gerald T. Chichester. Jonathan Chu. Kyle Alexander Crisco. Thomas Jonathan Clark. Ioannis George Konitz. Derek Scott Kressler. Sarah Lee Janet Kryl. Kelsey Royal Cross. Robert Hampton Daniel. Sarah Grace Darden. Vincent Sebastian Dattilo. George Kevin Davis II. Jordan Tyler Davis. Leah Marie Davis. Danielle Ashley Davison. Erin Victoria Dietrich. Michael Aaron Delgadio. Elizabeth Ainsley DeVos. Jared Lee Dodd. Sarah Louise Dominy. Granison Ted Ader. Sydney Carnell Eberhardt. Eleanor Keith Emanuel. Joseph George Emanuel. Laura Erdelin. Gabrielle Elaine Espy. Samantha R. Feinberg. Ashley Darby Forelli. Anna Victoria Fowler. TJ Freeman. Carly Sumner Felici. Andrew J. Fulbright. Olga G. Gambini. Meredith Ann Gardiel. Christopher Ross George. Heidi Ghulam Hosseini. Jack Gibson. Michael F. Gibson. Ethan Tyler Good. Lauren Felice Gordon. James C. Graham Jr. Zachary Grant. Michael Graves. Joseph Patrick Hackney. Allison Kate Hamill. Jacqueline Michelle Hamill. Joshua Zane Harmon. Hannah Elizabeth Heltzel. Kenneth Marshall Henson III. Kathleen Brennan Hicks. Janessa Lynn Higginbotham. Alice Bynum Holloway. Kelly Holloway. Crystal Huffman Homa. Sean Hong. John Charles Hope Jr. John David Howard. Jonah Blue Howell. Nicholas X. Hudd. Carly Jackson. Brock A. Johnson. John Amble Johnson. Kenrick Johnson. Eric Palmer Jones. Tyler Jones.
Taylor Long Josie, Jr. Adam Kamal Kadura. Colby Laureen Keefe. Christopher R. Keegan. Christopher J. Kim. Francis Haywan Kim. Trevor King. Nicholas Andrew Kinsley. Jamie Joy Koshi. Kevin Patrick Langley. Fisher K. Law. Mark McLean Lebert. Carolyn Louise Lee. Lindsay Lair. Andrew Patrick Leipold. Ethan M. Macon. John M. Malutnak. David DeMarcus Mapp. Kaylee Elizabeth Maxwell. Kathleen Mary Elaine Meyer. Lindsay M. Mayo. Andrew Bain McClintock. David Gary McGee. Maren Ashley McGinley. Tiffany Rochelle McKenzie. Tucker J. McKinley. Samuel LaCroix Michael. Andrew Preston Miller. Manning Edward Miller. Stephen Davis Morrison III. Taylor Denise Murray. Hari Naranyan. Good trip. Cody Newman. Sarah Hannah Newman. Chakuma Julian Obichafu. T. Chase Ogletree. Aaron Drew Parks. Morgan Georgia Patterson. Patrice D. Patterson. Trevor James Peck. Alexander Perez. Aaron Peterson. Anthony D. Pickett. Andrew Lockwood Pollard. Christopher Sean Polston. F. Madison Rabb. Benjamin P. Ralston. Austin Lee Ramsey IV. Caleb Henry Ratliff. Elliot Crawford Reed. Chloe Sharon Rickey. Alexander Russo. Lauren Ashley Sanders. Andrew Nathan Saul. Zachary Scarborough. Lauren Ann Scott. Leonard Robert Seifert III. Sartik Sharma. Carolyn Kim Schillenberg. Marshall Stephen Sims. Shaniqua Lachey Singleton. Mark S. Smith. Sally Elizabeth Snyder. Michael Francis Sofo. Stephen David Solowski. Gregory Rue Steele. Rachel Hope Stein. Taylor Butenshawn Strickland. Jonathan Stewart. Charlie Sturdivant. Kelly Marie Sullivan. Ryan Daniel Sullivan. Joseph Dylan Summer. Brittany Kayon Sumter. Corey Takuchi. Michelle Tang. Charles K. Timish. John C. Thomas III. Jonathan Stevens Tange. Sarah Ann Wagner. Sterling R. Waite. Jennifer Stakich Walker. Jacob Mitchell Ware. Tyler L. Washburn. Natasha Janice Webb Prather. Jonathan Andrew Weeks. Megan Jones Wells. Lily D. Wilkerson. Kelsey William Willett. Wes Wood. Ashley Lynn Yugla. Michelle Yang. Rachel Cizik.
Ladies and gentlemen, in a moment, the recessional will begin. I'd ask you to remain in your seats while the platform party exits the arena. After they have done so, you are welcome to join your friends and family on the floor, in the stands, or outside. But before the recessional begins, can I ask you all to give it up one more time for the University of Georgia Law School class of 2000?